What's up? Welcome to a Proof of Life podcast where I prove I am alive. I'm at the beach right now, right outside one of my family's restaurants, locations, Chicho's here at Virginia Beach Oceanfront. I'll show you the ocean later. You should come out and look at the ocean with me sometime. But today I will be talking about strange loops, consciousness, life itself maybe, the self symbol, because I am currently trying to do a book report on this thick ass book here, Gödel, Escher, and Bach by Douglas Hofstadter, and I'm gonna set a timer so I prevent myself from rambling. This is gonna be a very much of a brain dump, and here we got 2:22. I don't know if you can see it. I'm gonna set a timer. It's 1:55 right now. There's a lot I want to talk about today. If you want a quick summary, you should ask help from AI in the comment section thing. You just have to kind of swipe around. It's a pretty cool feature now that I like because it shows the timestamps and outlines everything in the video. Sometimes I just do that and I don't even watch the video, if I'm being honest and being a mercenary with my attention and where I spend my time on YouTube here on this platform. So it does save a lot of time, but I wonder how that will affect viewership and if people will stop watching videos because of this. You could just get the summary. It's like the Spark Notes of video. If you know what Spark Notes is, I hope kids still know that. I'm currently 25, so this is me at age 25, gekosky, trying to talk about strange loops, consciousness, the symbol of self. I'm sure I will reread this book in the future down the line, as this is a very fun book to read. I definitely recommend reading this book in a book club. Shout out to my book club moon readers, Will Butler, Andrew Cennicola, Leonard. Maybe I'll put them in the description. Very wide array of perspectives. We have a musician, teacher, someone in business school trying to get their MBA. I'm outing them right now. And also another one is working at a startup. He's the first employee of a startup. I hope I'm allowed to say this. But if not, I'm sorry. And just let me know and I'll edit it out maybe if YouTube allows me. But let's get to the topic. Now that we got all the fun intro stuff out of the way, all the logistics. Strange loop. What is a strange loop? Strange loop to me, and also I think defined by Douglas Hofstadter, is a self-referential pattern where it causes the phenomenon of consciousness that we experience as humans, the qualia we experience as human. And qualia is just this fun word to describe consciousness, the experience of consciousness itself, the quality of consciousness, qualia. That's how I define it or interpret it. You're welcome to correct me in the comments on anything. This is, again, don't trust everything you all say in a YouTube video, but this is what my perspective, my bodily vessel's perspective on this. So a strange loop is this weird recursive self-referential pattern where you're able to, it explains why we're able to imagine ourselves in our mind. We create a symbol for ourself and it reflects inwards and out, allowing us to navigate and react to the world with our sensory perceptions, our intuitions, our awareness of things, our senses, and correct ourselves in this cyberkinetic way, similar to how agents work. They're able to direct themselves, and maybe we'll get into that later, artificial intelligence and how it could be conscious, although I think we are far from it, at least from our discussion in the book club. I'll link a conversation I had with Andrew Cennicola on this as well, on consciousness and life, where we just have a brief conversation right before fun and drinking. I think I was the only one that drank out of the pair of the podcast, but I keep getting off topic. Strange loops, strange loops, strange loops. If you can imagine yourself in a box and you see yourself in this box, and then you open it and you'll realize that you open the box and you see yourself again. It's like a weird phenomenon, I think. It's hard to really pin down. But Douglas Hofstadter famously says that he is a strange loop, that I am a strange loop. I am a strange loop. And you can imagine like a cursor, like on like a computer screen, like you move around the mouse. That is like your symbol of self, your cursor of awareness. You're able to move it from here to there, and then going into consciousness and the unconscious. I've also been reading a bit of Carl Jung in psychology. I kind of imagine consciousness as like a light cone maybe, projecting out into the darkness of what is unconscious. And we could get into maybe some of the shadow work and shadows of consciousness. I believe there is a shadow of consciousness, and that just is the unconscious. How you doing? Yeah. But a lot of what we are and how we think is also due to the neurons firing in our brains. There is this reductionist view I think Doug subscribes to, where we are, what explains our minds happens on the lower levels of our brains, all the synapses and neurons. I'm not a neuroscientist, so I'm just trying to summarize it as quickly as I can in the time I have with you, in the space we have together. And that explains, it's kind of like evolutionary determinism, where we have adapted our consciousness to survive and to thrive in this reality we live in, and that the implications of that is that reality could be an illusion that we have created, and it could be far from the truth of what reality actually is. And that's an interesting thought experiment to go down, an interesting rabbit hole to go down. Excuse me also, I am very tired. I think I have a headache. I do have a headache because of a lack of sleep. I did not get a wink or a blink of sleep last night. Don't tell my mom. I'm okay though. I'm going to sleep well tonight. But I do have to finish the book report by tomorrow because our book club is meeting up in the Washington, D.C. to celebrate us finishing this book that we started a little less than a year ago. I think it was like January, February-ish. All like so many pages. So many pages. But so what is the book about? It's about Gödel, Escher, and Bach. And this is a way for the author, Doug, to illustrate what a strange loop is, although he may not. It's just an illustration, a metaphor for what a strange loop is. It might not actually be a strange loop itself. So that's a interesting nuance. I think the author views what a strange loop is. It requires a witness. It requires a witness to experience the qualia, to perceive the strange loop itself, reflecting in and on itself and out. So that's I think an important point to point out. But I think what's the point of all this? Why does this all matter? What's the practical use in this? For me, I think it has improved my writing, improved my ability to speak and communicate, because I understand the inner workings of my own mind and mechanisms. And I find interesting insights in this mechanism that we have with our brains. It has led me to be able to write and express a lot. I've been writing consistently every week in my newsletter, my Live Life letters, on this topic of consciousness and the self and the soul, all that woo-woo stuff, that mystical stuff. But at the end of it, it's weird because I fall back into the Socratic paradox of I know that I know nothing because of this proof, Gödel's proof, the incompleteness theorem, it states that any system, any formal system, cannot prove itself. And I'm trying to explain that. I think, and I hope I might be butchering it. So, but the Gödel's incompleteness theorem just says that no system can prove itself fully. It can never be complete because there is a strange loop that occurs or some weird stuff that happens. It's similar to how I like to put it into my own interpretation, is like the shadow of self. We are never wholly complete. We're never fully aware of ourselves because there exists a shadow of ourselves. There exists an unconscious that we are not aware of. There are symbols that are dormant in our minds that because we don't know what we don't know, and we are limited by language too, and language is a barrier for us to express ourselves because it creates this it's always incomplete, and you always feel like you're trying to put the words to a thought or to a feeling or to an emotion or intuition, and you just lack the words. That is, I think, the incompleteness theorem working in your mind as we live in our lives, as we try to understand one another. And I think it's interesting because I think by understanding this, we're able to map on to each other better. Although we may never fully understand each other's maps of each other's minds, we can never really fully understand another person because we don't live through their perspective, through their experience. But I think it leads us to more compassion by better understanding yourself, your own mind, and how it works. It leads you to more compassion. It leads you to this divine aura, I like to say. I just watched this interesting video by Healthy Gamer, great YouTuber. He just dropped a video this morning, I think, or last night, about divine aura that people have, and this link we have to the divine, to divinity, to what's beautiful, to God, not necessarily in the Christian sense or the Catholic sense, although I am Catholic, I'll say that. But to tap into this awareness, and an awareness of an awareness that allows you to feel this divinity, to feel like there's something beyond us, that leads you to more compassion, that leads you to more love. And I think this is the practical use of trying to understand this consciousness thing and life thing and our experience and our selves and our shadows and our egos, because it leads us to better connect with each other and reduces the gap. Because I think we are all interconnected through this collective spirit, this collective unconscious, whatever you want to call it. We are linked together by this thing we call love, and then we get there by empathy and compassion. So that was a long-winded answer as to why this is important, I think. But there's a lot I wanted to talk on. If you want to do your own research, some keywords: Henkin's witness or Henkin's sentence or statement. I think it's a good answer to Gödel's incompleteness theorem. But there's not much material on YouTube about this Henkin statement. It's a lot into going into logic, and I wasn't the greatest at logic. I did minor in philosophy, if you couldn't tell, in college, and I also majored in commerce and business at the University of Virginia. There's a helicopter, which also explains the business behind me. I learned a lot from my dad on the business side, not to go too much up of a tangent, but we've been working on a lot of projects together, and it's been a blessing. Shout out to my dad for being the best mentor I could ask for. Very lucky. I'm a Nepo baby. and I'm learning a lot of ropes of how business works, and there's a lot of crossover and application here with strange loops and understanding consciousness, because businesses themselves are like entities trying to survive, and there's a lot of weird hierarchies, weird loops that go on in business that you have to deal with. So there's another practical reason as to why you should understand consciousness better, because it helps you understand business better and other entities that may or may not exist in our world. Wow, so let's take a breather for a moment. I'm a bit I have my manic tingle senses going on because of my lack of sleep. That's what I like to call it, my spiral mode of thinking, my spidey senses. But it allows me to have this more fluid, more cerebral experience of talking to you, because I think the less sleep I get, the closer I am to the unconscious, the closer I am to the shadow of my consciousness, to the uncharted dream world that we create in our own minds. Maybe it is an illusion, maybe this whole experience is an illusion, but it's I think, a good investigation, a good endeavor to try and break this illusion as best as we can through understanding. But there's also another part of the book that goes into Buddhism and koans, non-existence, non-being. And I imagine this as like latent space or negative space in the mind. I know latency and negative spaces aren't necessarily like the same thing. Latent space is like invisible geometry that occurs in your mind that's explaining why things are occurring in your mind late, and it explains like the delays and the slips within your mind. I feel like there's like a 3-second slip between, maybe it might be less than 3 seconds, depending on how latent your mind is. If you have a good working brain and a good working frame of mind, then maybe your latency is better or more efficient. Yeah, but the negative space, I think there is the space around a subject. Like if you think like photography and in video, there's like a subject in the frame of a video or photo, and around the space, the empty space, the void, some may call it, that is negative space. Yeah, but I'll say, what time is it? Let's see how much time we have. Oh my gosh. It's 2:11, so I have about 11 minutes left, and it's getting a little chilly. Let's take a break to look at the ocean for a moment. Oh, it's bright. Oh, frick. Bear with me for a moment. Born and raised in Virginia Beach. Love this place. Great place to raise a family. Yeah, grew up here on the beach. Chicho's has been around. Shout out Chicho's since 1968. Started by lifeguards. So, little trivia for you. You can do your own research if you ever come down to Virginia Beach. Definitely recommend trying out Chicho's. We do have our own separate channel for business content. I'm trying to build that brand up. Building this, whatever this is, this passion project I'm doing of my own personal brand. That's all the craze nowadays in our society, trying to build a brand, build these personas into this collective consciousness we call the internet and social media. Social media is an arena, but it also could be a sanctuary for people, the network, the hierarchies. My mind is slowing down if you can't tell. I think I'm running out of steam. Unfortunately. But let's look at my notes here. I'll paint a fun picture. So imagine the prisoner's dilemma. The prisoner's dilemma, if you don't know, is when two individuals are put into a situation where they have to either rat out their other counterpart, choose to stay silent, and then the incentive system's kind of like If you rat your counterpart and they don't rat you out, you get a better incentive, better reward. If you both rat each other out, you both get like the worst, or like not as bad as like someone ratting you out and you don't rat them out, but it's like you both get punished collectively. And then if you don't snitch, you both get lesser of a sentence or punishment, and it's a better collective reward, a better net benefit for both counterparts. I think that's a good overview of the prisoner's dilemma. But tying strange loops and the prisoner's dilemma together, I imagine me and my soul. Those are the two counterparts, me and the self, in this prisoner's dilemma, where we are constantly in tension and conflict, or in cahoots with each other, constantly trying to find each other in this weird, strange loop we find ourselves in. And it's like it's a game of chicken, trying to uncover each other. Because I think your soul is trying to uncover you, or your true self is trying to uncover you. Your symbol of self is trying to uncover you, the ego of your desires. And there's competing interests going on. I don't know. It's a weird kind of thought experiment I'm painting for you, this image. But I don't know how to necessarily connect these two things together. I think I get close to it, but it's hard to reach that pure connection, that pure awareness. But there's a concept I've been using a lot in my writing, the meta self and meta awareness, meta. But you could fall into infinite regress if you're not careful, and you slip in your mind and you fall into an infinite regress, an infinite loop of the mind. So Gödel, Escherbach, the book, taught me how to kind of avoid those slips by creating this idea of a strange loop. And other examples that create this image of a strange loop in pictures is like Escher's paintings. Maybe I'll put some paintings here in the edit. We're gonna go see Escher's painting in DC, which I'm excited for. The Mobius strip. It's like a one-sided strip that's twisted. That is like a strange loop there. Yeah. Oh, frick. Well, let me try and wrap this up, because I think we're coming to the end. I didn't even get to really touch artificial intelligence that much, but if a artificial intelligence, or another way to phrase it, artificial intuition, is able to perform a strange loop, to be able to reflect on itself and experience the thinking process behind it, they wouldn't be that much different than us. And we go back to the Turing machines, Alan Turing, one of the pioneers of artificial intelligence and machines, mind and machines. That is a very great rabbit hole to go down, the Pickwick dreams he had. Great mathematician. And then also Lewis Carroll, the author of Alice in Wonderland, or Through the Looking Glass. Doug used his spirits to kind of help him write the dialogues in this book. And I really like the Lewis Carroll a lot. And he uses these Achilles and the tortoise, and how they are always trying to have this foot race through the Zeno's paradox. So I'm giving you guys a lot of material to look into for yourself if you're curious. Alright. The waves are crashing and my mind's collapsing. It's like a waveform. I don't agree with Doug that we are irreducible, or we are just a reductionist view, that we are just wires and neurons firing. I think there's a bit more to us, I think. This weird mysticism. I think there's something a bit beyond us, and then we could maybe get into religion, spirituality, and God. Because I think I witnessed God in the mechanism of our own minds. It's hard for me to deny. I know it's a foolish endeavor to claim God in the gaps because I have no justifiable proof to prove to you that God exists except through these weird logical proofs. I like Pascal's wager. That's kind of like a gambler's incentive to believe in God. There's this one philosophy of religion class I took that really changed my paradigm of how I viewed religion in God. Because I always grew up Catholic, but taking that class really made me more fervent. Is that the right word? More flameful in my faith. Because I imagine my mind is a river, a stream of consciousness, and my heart is a flame. Because when you lose your head through the guillotine, David Hume's guillotine, look into that, between the is and ought, that gap. David Hume was a Scottish philosopher, good friends with Ben Franklin. You may know Ben Franklin if you're American. But what was I talking about? If you lose your head, you can fall into your heart, take shelter into your heart. Take heart when your head is lost. That's what I say. Because the heart knows the truth when the head hurts, and my head hurts a lot right now, thinking about strange loops, thinking about consciousness, thinking about how it all fits together, trying to integrate it, disintegrate it, integrate it again in this loop, this spiral, moving up hopefully in awareness. Because honestly, going up in awareness is not always a good thing, and it hurts sometimes. The more you are aware of, the more you are attuned to, the more you sense, and the more you feel, and the more it could hurt. So be careful on this journey if you're interested in this, in raising your awareness on these things and your consciousness. Carl Jung warns of the depths, the spirit of the depths and the spirit of the times. There's a interesting little tangent I'm going here. Spirit of the depths is where the soul goes, where all the unconscious lives, and the spirit of the times is more like society today and the zeitgeist of what's practical and good for business, where that's where greed and other things happen, I think, in the spirit of the times when we are rushing for life. But we have 1 minute, so I appreciate you watching, taking the time. Feel free to check out my other videos here that may pop up here or there. Love and appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in to my proof of life, where I hopefully proven to you that I am alive, not some robot. That's getting harder nowadays, you know. So I do like doing this raw video here. Yeah. But wish me luck on if I'm able to finish my book report before the trip to DC. Oh, there's the timer. Time's up. Okay. Oh, Moma. Transition out.